Hello, English learners. Welcome back to English Pods. I am Leonardo.
Whoa! Good morning, students. And I'm Elizabeth.
Today, we are diving into something a little different, like really different.
Different good or different,
Oh, definitely different good. Today, we are exploring an essential topic for anyone looking to excel in English.
All right, so you guys really seem to be interested in this excerpt on how family shapes personality.
Yeah, looks like we're diving deep into some serious childhood baggage this time.
Metaphorically, of course.
Of course, but it should get interesting. What's really stood out to me from this source is how it's not just about your childhood. It's like family keeps shaping you in ways you don't even realize all through your life.
That's kind of scary, actually. But, okay, let's break it down. The source starts off talking about those early childhood experiences, like as the foundation.
Right, it's those very first relationships, right? That's where you learn about trust and connection, or, well, the lack of it, I guess.
And that ties into what they call, attachment styles. I always get a little lost with that concept.
Yeah, attachment styles. It's basically like the patterns you develop in those first few years, all based on how your caregivers respond to you as a little kid.
Okay, but how does that turn into, actual personality traits later on? Give me an example.
Okay, so imagine a baby tries, and every time, boom, they get comforted. They learn, hey, my needs get met, the world's a safe place. That builds security.
Makes sense.
But what if, on the other hand, you have a baby who cries, and nobody really comes consistently? They might start thinking, uh-oh, world's not so reliable, I got to worry about being alone. That can lead to a more anxious style, even as they grow up.
So wait, so just from that, someone could end up approaching all their relationships differently, like their whole life, just because of how someone reacted to them as a baby.
It can have a long-lasting impact, yeah. And this is where the source goes into those parenting styles,
Yeah.
like authoritative, authoritarian, all those.
Ooh, yeah, those. I always mix them up. Could you give us a cheat sheet on the main ones and how they actually affect kids?
So authoritative is kind of like the firm but fair style. You've got rules, boundaries, but it's also warm. There's communication.
Yeah.
Kids raised like this often turn out more independent, confident, and better at managing themselves.
Okay, I get that. So then authoritarian is where things get stricter.
More about control, less focus on the kid's own, individual needs or feelings. Now, look, I'm not here to judge any parent. Everyone's doing their best.
Right, of course, of course.
But studies do show this style sometimes leads to kids who are either super rebellious or the opposite, struggling with anxiety, low self-worth.
So it's not good parent, bad parent. It's more like different approaches lead to different outcomes, which makes sense.
Absolutely. And it's not just emotions and relationships, right?
Yeah.
The source also gets into how families shape our whole sense of morality. It's like our first ethics class, but way more hands-on.
Oh, totally. It's more about what you see than what you're told. Like they had that example where if a kid always sees their parents lying, well, they're more likely to think that's okay themselves.
It's crazy how we pick up on those behaviors. Like our brains are wired to copy the people we're closest to, especially as kids.
I'm already cringing, remembering some stuff I probably mimicked from my parents, good and bad. Makes you think.
It really does. And it's not just the behaviors we see. It's how families deal with feelings that shapes us so much.
Oh, yeah, big time. Some families, it's like, feelings. What feelings? We don't talk about those. I wonder if that's where some of those, unhealthy coping mechanisms come from.
It absolutely can. If emotions are always getting shut down, a kid learns, nope, not safe to express myself. So they might become adults who, bottle everything up, and they can cause problems in relationships, work, even their own mental health.
That's so different from families where everyone talks about their feelings openly. I bet those kids grow up way more, emotionally intelligent.
Exactly. They learn to recognize, manage their own emotions, and they get how other people are feeling too. And the source makes this big point that this emotional intelligence stuff, it's like a superpower for well-being later in life.
Like a secret weapon they got from their family, just from how they talked about feelings. Okay, so we've got attachment styles, parenting styles, morals, emotional intelligence. Anything else? Family shapes. Because I'm starting to think they control everything.
Oh, we're just getting started. This source digs into how family is like your first social skills boot camp. It's where you learn to actually be a human around other humans.
Oh, so true. All that sibling stuff, sharing, negotiating, fighting, making up.
Exactly. You're learning the ropes of how to get along, even if it's messy sometimes.
What about those of us who are only children? Did we miss out on this boot camp?
I mean, you still learn social skills, but maybe from different places, friends, school, watching how adults interact.
Yeah.
But yeah, we all got to figure out how to function in the world, and a lot of that starts at home.
Okay, I'm ready for the next layer of this family onion. What else does the source cover?
Well, it talks about this idea of role models in the family. Like, it's not just direct teaching. It's more about how kids just soak up everything by watching the adults around them.
It's like that whole do as I say, not as I do thing. But if kids are hardwired to learn by watching, does that even work?
The source says, not really. Kids are smart. They pick up on habits, work ethic, even bad stuff, just from observing. Remember those parents who lie? Yeah, their kids might think that's normal.
It's like downloading behavior instead of software. But it's not always negative, right? They said a hardworking parent can inspire their kids to work hard too.
Right. It's seeing those values in action, not just hearing about them. Think about your own childhood. What good stuff did you pick up from your family?
My grandma was super resourceful, like always figuring things out. I think I got some of that from her.
There you go, family influence. But the source also talks about the flip side. Like if a kid is around substance abuse or really bad ways of handling conflict, that can stick with them.
Yeah, family's not always sunshine and roses. Sometimes it's more like, hurdles you got to overcome.
True. But even then, just knowing where those patterns come from can help you deal with them.
Like knowing where the potholes are so you can swerve around them.
Exactly. Okay, switching gears a bit, the source talks about how family passes on more than just genes, We get culture, social identity, all that shapes how we see the world.
So it's not just your dad's bad temper, it's his whole worldview you might inherit. That's a lot.
It is. The traditions, the holidays, the stories you hear growing up, all that stuff adds up. It gives you this sense of belonging, this idea of what's right and wrong.
And the source even said that families who are really into helping their community, their kids, are often more likely to be helpful people too. Like it gets passed down somehow.
Right, and it's not always on purpose. It's just those little everyday things, how people treat each other, whether you're expected to help out or not.
It's like the air you breathe in your family home. You don't notice it, but it's shaping you.
I like that. And it makes you wonder how much of what we do as adults, our choices and values and all that, comes from our families. That's a big question, and the source wants us to think about it.
Yeah.
But it's not just about looking back. It's also realizing that we're part of that influence now,
So even if we don't have kids, we're still passing on stuff to other people just by how we act.
It's like this ripple effect.
Yeah.
What you got from your family keeps going outwards.
Whoa, okay, my brain is officially full. But I think I'm ready for more. Hit me with the next big idea.
Well, the source gets into how family impacts, wait for it, your brain power. Like how smart you are, how much you learn.
Wait, are you saying my family may be dumb? Just kidding. But seriously, how much influence does family have on intelligence?
It's not about setting your IQ, but more about whether your family creates an environment where you, want to learn. The source talks about attitudes toward education, what resources you have access to, even your family's income.
So it's not just about being born smart, it's about the opportunities you get, right?
And that ties into what they said about kids from supportive families being more confident to go after their goals. It's like having your own personal cheer squad.
But what if you don't have that? Can you still succeed if your family wasn't so great at that support stuff?
Definitely. People are resilient. Lots of folks achieve amazing things despite tough upbringings. But those early experiences can make things harder, for sure.
Like starting a race a few steps behind everyone else. You can still win, but it takes more work.
Good analogy. And speaking of challenges, the source goes into how family shapes how you deal with the tough stuff in life.
I bet it's not about what they told us to do. It's more like how they acted when things got rough.
You got it. Like, the source gives this example of resilience. Kids who see their parents handling problems with, a positive attitude, they tend to be more positive too. They learn that hard times are normal, but they don't have to break you.
So it's like inheriting a toolkit for dealing with life's crap.
I like that. But what if your family's toolkit was full of rusty, broken tools? The ones that don't actually work.
That's a good point. If your family wasn't so good at coping, you might not have the best skills either, right?
Unfortunately, yeah. You might learn to avoid stuff, deny there's a problem, or even do things that hurt yourself. It's not ideal.
It makes you realize how much those early years affect us, even way later in life.
For sure. And that leads us to this other fascinating thing the source brings up, which is birth order.
Oh, here we go. So, is it true? Are firstborns all bossy know-it-alls like everyone says?
Well, birth order might matter a little, but the source makes it clear it's not that simple. Family size, the age gaps between siblings, parenting styles, even just kids' personalities, it all mixes together.
So it's not like those stereotypes, the responsible oldest, the middle child who acts out, the baby of the family who gets away with everything.
Nope, much more complicated than that. And while some research says birth order might have a little influence, the source is basically saying it's just one small piece of a giant puzzle.
So it's not destiny, it's just one thing that might play a role. That makes me feel better.
Me too. But even though we're not just products of our birth order, the source reminds us that family keeps impacting us even when we're adults.
You mean like my parents are still messing me up? I'm kidding, mostly. But seriously, you're saying those childhood things keep shaping us.
Absolutely. The things you learn as a kid, how your family talked to each other, even how they fought, they can show up in your own relationships, your work, even how you raise your own kids.
So we're like walking around with this family blueprint inside us, whether we like it or not.
Pretty much. And it's not just about how they shaped us. Now we're part of shaping families, our own, or maybe just the people around us. It never ends.
Whoa, this is getting deep. So, like, how does the source sum up this whole family thing then? What's the big takeaway?
They call family the cornerstone of personality.
Cornerstone, that's a pretty big deal. Do they really think family is the only thing that makes us who we are?
Well, it's a bold statement, and maybe it's a bit too simple. Because, yeah, cornerstone is super important, but it's not the whole building, right?
True. Like, maybe I got my mom's tendency to worry, but that doesn't mean I'm doomed to be a stress case forever. I can learn to chill out, right?
Exactly. We're not just puppets controlled by our families. We have choices. You can focus on the good stuff you got, work on the not-so-good stuff, and even find your own strengths that have nothing to do with family.
So it's not ignoring family's impact, but also
right.
realizing that other things matter too, like our genes, our friends, what happens in our
It's
lives.
all mixed together: nature, nurture, choices, luck. That's what makes everyone so different.
It's like we all get this basic drawing to start with, but then we can, like, color it in, erase parts, add our own stuff. It's our drawing in the end.
I love that. And that's why this deep dive is so useful. It's not just about where you came from. It's about using that knowledge to decide who you want to be.
Like, you're given a map of yourself, but you can explore off the trails, find new places no one in your family ever went.
Exactly. And that's where the fun is, figuring out who you are, not just who your family is.
So to all you listeners out there, think about your family blueprint. What did you inherit? What are you working on changing? What makes you, you?
And the big question is, how can you use all that to create a life that feels good for you and the people around you?
Remember, family's important, but it's not the whole story. Understanding that can help you grow, be kinder to yourself, and maybe even make the world a little bit better. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. You know, we've been talking about this whole family as the cornerstone idea. It's a strong image, right? Like solid, important, but I don't know, is it maybe too simple?
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, the cornerstone's essential, but it's not the whole building. You need all the other stuff to make it work. Maybe personality's kind of like that.
Right. Like, okay, maybe I did get my mom's tendency to worry about everything, but that doesn't mean I'm stuck being a nervous wreck forever, right? I can learn to handle it, be more chill.
Totally. We're not just robots programmed by our families. We can choose. You can take those good traits and make them even better, work on the ones that bug you, and even, like, discover totally new strengths that your family had nothing to do with.
So it's not saying family doesn't matter, but it's not the only thing. There's also your genes, your friends, the stuff that happens to you in life.
It's a big mix of everything: nature, nurture, choices you make, even just plain luck. That's what makes us each so different.
It's like you get this basic sketch from your family, but then you get to color it in how you want, erase some lines, add your own doodles. It's your picture at the end of the day.
I like that. And that's what makes this whole deep dive thing worthwhile. It's not just about knowing where you came from. It's about using that info to decide who you want to become.
Like, you're given this map of yourself, but you don't have to stay on the marked trails. You can go exploring, find places your family never even knew existed.
That's where the real adventure is. Discovering who you are, not just who your family is.
So everyone listening, think about your family blueprint. What did they give you? That's great. What are you trying to change? What makes you you, not just a mini version of your parents?
And the big question is, how can you use all that to build a life that feels right for you and everyone you care about?
Because remember, family's a big deal, but it's not everything. When you get that, it can help you grow, be nicer to yourself, and maybe even make the world a bit better. Thanks for diving deep with us.